at Power Popaholic, and today I have with me the members of, the great band Wanderlust. We have Rob Bonfiglio, and we have Scott Sax below driving. How are you guys doing?
Is this not common Zoom etiquette?
Well, I had a lot of stuff happen in Zoom. We had a cat run across the screen, my last interview. So
Really?
Something new. That's fun.
Yeah. All right. Better that than taking a poop on your screen.
Yeah. Just do me a favor. Don't, be careful when you're driving.
Maybe you can run over a cat.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. We used to, when we would tour back in the olden days, in the 1870s, I would be like I would be playing all these albums that were like, whatever my new favorite albums were. And, I was like psyched because like, I felt like I was turning Rob onto stuff he might normally not listen to. And, it was like a bonding thing. And then I would like maybe ask him a question and he wouldn't say anything. And I remember turning around and the whole time he had his headphones on and listening to his own personal cassette collection of his.
You're talking to him and he's like not even listening.
I'm reenacting this. I'm reenacting.
There was no bonding. There was no, that was all.
So tell me, let's start at the beginning because before we move into the new album, this is a short interview. So you guys had an amazing debut in '95. It's, one of my favorite debuts, right up there with Matthew Sweet's 100% Fun. And then like right in the middle of that, when you're just starting to get big and hot, RCA drops you. I mean, I don't know really, you gathered stuff together and came out with the second album a couple years later, but I don't know what happened to the group at that point. I mean, obviously there was a lot of disillusionment. The music industry was completely different compared to now. But tell me a little bit about what happened after that major label, just dumped you and you were, on your own basically.
Well, first of all, 100% truth. We asked to be let go. We actually were not. We never got a phone call or an I was going to say email, but it didn't exist yet. But no, we asked to be let off the label because it was just, we were sort of in a no man's land and waiting for them to tell us what was happening next. We actually officially got renewed. They told Warner Chappell, who I was signed to as a writer, that they were renewing our contract, and Warner Chappell renewed my contract, and we recorded and we wrote and recorded, I think a pretty great second album, to say the least. 2 or 3 albums worth of material, and I don't know. It was just like no man's land, but we weren't dropped. And then I just called because I was like, I wanted to, like, all right, well, let's pick up the pieces and move on. This is too awesome to let go of it. And so they did. They sent us the thing. So that, for the record, we kind of instigated that.
We did, and we were in the studio. I mean, right after our first tour, which was great, and it was successful, and in our terms, it was fun, and we went straight back into the studio to do the second record. And we thought we had a great album, and then we delivered it to them, and they're like, well, can you keep going with this, or we want to hear another single? I don't know what they were doing, but it prolonged the studio time into like a year of being in the studio, in and out. And everybody was just questioning everybody else, like, what are we doing? How do we appease these guys and just and make the record we want to make? And it got paranoid, it got crazy, and the vibes were not good like the first time. They were just different, and I think all that led to the next phase in the band.
It just wore us out. We were just exhausted, and it wasn't fun, and we weren't allowed to play shows. I always thought that was the weirdest thing.
I don't remember that.
We were literally, remember that, Rob? We were literally.
I don't, yeah.
They wouldn't pay. We were on tour. They pulled the money out from us, like the tour support, before the end of '95, which was like our big year. So, and I think
with the Who at that point, right?
Yeah, but
that was a little later.
That was the beginning of '96, right, Rob?
Yeah, that was, yeah, I want to say
Yeah.
something around there. Is it October?
But yeah, if it was a different, I could see another band in our situation sticking in out longer and and going like continuing to do whatever they had to do, and all that, like the Black Keys doing like 10 years on the road.
Right.
I from we as the great Kesha once said, we are who we are. I mean, like, I don't really think any of us actually deep down like we're up for slugging it out on the road at that point. I mean, we were at the end of our 20s. We'd all tried different things before we met each other, and it just was like, if it took off enough to the point of having if it kept going and it was tour support and they kept us on the road, and it was building on its own momentum, that would have worked. But we just were like, I don't think the four of us just had that in us to slug it out. I don't think that's who we are. I don't think that's who we were.
Yeah, but now eventually you soldiered on independently for a while.
Yeah.
And you had a lot of great success with independent projects, solo projects. I loved Rob's album, the past 2-3 years ago. It was great. And I've heard all of your stuff, Scott. I can't think of a bad solo album you came out with. But now you decided to come together again. What was it about the band that made it a special time for you to want to reunite? And I believe this album was funded with a GoFundMe campaign. Was it a fan-led campaign? So
Kickstarter.
Yeah, tell me how it all came together in the beginning.
I think it started through the pandemic, and everybody was kind of like in downtime. And Scott, I think, was obviously he was the impetus with finding. What did you find? A cassette? You found some cassettes of old tunes.
Yeah, I found a box of demos and stuff. I just found this box of Wanderlust treasures, and among the stuff I found, I realized there were not even just 10, but between 10 and 20 songs that we didn't record, that just fell through the cracks. And I was like, wow, well, I know nobody's ultra busy right now. That was the upside to the first, the pandemic, as every, I'm sure you guys would agree. The first couple months were kind of awesome. We didn't know it was going to be a 1.5-year shitstorm. So it was just like, all right, I could, first of all, a lot of music. Yeah, I mean, Rob, people like you and I, we're inside all the time anyway, working.
It's nothing
on
different.
Yeah,
So
I heard the same thing from Roger Manning. He said, "Oh yeah, what pandemic? I'm in the studio. I'm in the engineering booth the whole time."
Yeah, and we have an excuse now. Nobody can get on our asses for like not getting out.
That's right.
I
know where to go.
Yeah, I know. And so it was in that, and I think the four of us, again, I think like a lot of people were a little freaked out between the politics and the pandemic, and it was a freaking scary year. And I think I think underneath the surface stuff, at least for me, it was like, it felt good to just have a touchstone to sort of reach out to my my former bandmates. And it was almost like the world was a bit of a like sinking ship, and it was like, hey, could we just like have a drink before the shit goes totally down? And so we zoomed, we had a Zoom thing, and then I sort of threw out the first offering of like, there was a song that we never did. What was the deal? I don't know. I picked a song from the called Mission Bell that came out on Not Lame, that was supposed to be for the RCAM. And I just sang and played it, videoed it on my iPhone and sent it to the guys, and then they sent their parts over it. And we started to dip our feet into the possibilities of what we could do with downtime but being apart. And then it went on to this tape I found, and we just took it one song at a time. And we were a little bit sheepish, probably like, I don't know, maybe it'll sound good. We'll see. After we did the first song, we're like, oh my God, that's fucking Wanderlust, and it sounds killer. I mean, we love the sound that comes out of us when we play it together. It doesn't sound like that with anybody else that we play with. So it was really, really fun. And we just took, I think 10 or 11 songs. Rob and I wrote 2 new ones. And before you know it, we had an album.
So like the songwriting process between you and Rob, I mean, I think in one particular song, I think maybe it's Corduroy Moon, where you're actually writing the song and Rob's just playing the music, but a lot of it is, it's an equal contribution together, right? Or is it, I'll do a verse, you do a verse, or is it, I'll do the chorus, you do this?
It's not really, although I think that this album proved that we are really good co-writing guys. I was really thrilled with, I've liked everything that we've co-written. But for the most of the Wanderlust stuff, I've written myself, and then Rob and I would write 1 or 2 songs. Rob's definitely a big part of the sound of Wanderlust. I've done my thing before Wanderlust. I've done my thing after Wanderlust. I'm very, a capable kind of one-stop shopping, but nothing that I've ever done as far as like the whole picture, the sound, this sort of chemistry thing, only Rob Bonfiglio. And that's a big deal. His sound is a big part of the Wanderlust sound. And as far as like co-writing on this album, we did Something Happens. Rob wrote the music, I wrote the words. And Trick of the Light, Rob wrote the words, and we co-wrote the music. And on Prize, we co-wrote Coffee in the Kitchen. But at the time with Prize, I mean, I was like I didn't even like have a job. I just was like, I literally was making like unemployment. I had a girlfriend. We were eating pork and beans, and I was writing songs around the clock. So I just was piling up so many songs that it just took a minute for Rob, to, I think, catch up as far as the songwriting thing. But that said, Coffee in the Kitchen, we knocked out together, and Throw Sticks My Way, that was on the Not Lame version of the RCA album we co-wrote. So I'd love to write
absolutely.
more.
And like Scott said, it's, what makes the band what it is the chemistry. Chemistry, it's an indefinable thing, and people have it and people don't. And it transcends, personalities. It transcends personal relationships even. And, it's just a musical equation that adds up. All the greats have it, and I think that we were lucky that we had that.
I know it really is fascinating. It fascinates me.
Yeah.
No, that's excellent. I love what's coming out of the album. It's, as far as I'm concerned, it's one of the top 10 albums this year on my list. I love Something Happens. This is a great song, nice, soft, catchy, hook-filled gem. Trick of the Light is like an epic. I can almost hear the different parts that Rob wrote and Scott wrote in that song, Trick of the Light. I can almost, oh yeah, that sounds like a Rob thing. Oh yeah, that sounds like a Scott thing. It's just so brilliantly put together, though. It's almost like 2 puzzle pieces layered on top of each other. Listening to it. It's just a great album, and I think after hearing this and also getting the, because you didn't have like a studio backing you basically went out and asked the fans, hey, help us finish this up, and they really delivered, which was nice.
With a big help from Bruce Brodeen.
Yes, and of course Bruce, who has been sort of like carrying and flying the flag for Wanderlust for many years.
Yes. You know what? He's asked for the least amount of money, as in none. The guy has never asked for a cent, and he's given us the most. How's that for?
That's great. Yeah. That's great. And I could. There are countless stories of Bruce's generosity that I could go through, and eventually I'm going to have to interview him separately on this thing as well. But getting back to the album, now that you have it out there, is there an impetus to, follow it up eventually with something else, or maybe have some shows possibly?
Hopefully, you know, in the coming year and possibly the new year, we can manage to all be on the same page and have time to get together and do something, you know, live.
Yeah.
Great.
It's been tough. This you know, schedules are crossing. You know, we're missing each other and whatever. But you know, that's something we do hope to have happen in the future.
And Rob, you're much more involved in playing with different things. I'm not. I don't.
Yeah.
My thing is my own. I'm like, I can change my schedule anytime, or people come. I work with people, but I don't. Yeah, I realize like I don't have to answer to anybody. I don't have to show. I'm not part of like different groups and stuff. So I'm sure you have like a timetable that's busy.
Yeah. It's hard to work around sometimes, but yeah.
So tell me, how did Cliff Hillis get involved in the mixing, and was he just sort of friends for you both and said, hey, yeah, I'll mix your album for you? How did that work out?
I became, you know, I think both Rob and I knew of Cliff Hillis, maybe through Not Lame originally. We didn't really know other freaks like us and like yourself. We didn't, you know, we were just scared little naked power pop babies crying and looking for our mama. And but I remember seeing the name Cliff Hillis, and I didn't realize until I moved from LA. I lived there for almost 10 years, and I moved back to Philadelphia and realized, oh, Cliff Hillis lives in Phoenixville outside of Philly. That's right. And then we got together, and I started writing with Cliff. And you know, he's just one of the sweetest guys you'll meet, and a, you know, absolute freak for music, lives and dies for it. And his wife is awesome too, also known as Maud Betty. Do you know her? Do you know that his wife's father's name is John Lennon, by the way?
What? Really?
Her dad's name is John Lennon.
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
What are the chances?
So he could probably get into, you know, Abbey Road Studios just by, you know, bringing his dad, his father-in-law.
Right. I'm related to John Lennon, yeah.
So I became friends with Cliff and wrote with him, and he produced one of the albums that I made a few years ago called, it's funny, I'm realizing this now. He produced an album of mine that's like a blues album. It's the only time I like ventured off like the pop melodic thing. And who do I get? I get Cliff Hillis to produce a blues album. But when we, I live in Nashville. The talent there is producers and everything, and I'm not talking about country. I'm talking about like rock and roll, pop rock. Right. It's as big there as anywhere, if not bigger. But I was like, Cliff Hillis has to. I think his records sound phenomenal.
They are. They're usually in my top 10 as well, I have to tell you.
They sound great. He's similar. He's in a similar ballpark sonically, I think. I don't know if you agree, as Rob is. Like they make similar, like just really
the production
good
and the melodic structures, you know, have a, you know, a familiarity that I think shares that same DNA. And I also wanted to mention, I really loved Rob and his wife Carney on the Ram On Paul McCartney tribute album that came out just a month ago. Fabulous album. Out of all the tribute albums I've heard, there's no fat on this one, folks. It's brilliant. Every song.
Yeah, that was a labor of love. That was a labor of love. Yep.
Awesome. Each of you, do you have a favorite song on the new album right now? Or do you love them all the same, like my kids, you know, that kind of thing?
Well, all our kids are up for adoption. Well, 99 cents a track, baby. You can have any of our kids. We need the yeah, I don't know. What are your?
I'm trying to look. I'm trying to find the track listing here. You know, I love the stuff that Scott and I did. Of course, I love "I Can Be Moved." Sonically, sounds great.
That came out great. That was the first one we did.
Yeah, you're right. All of You is a lot of fun. I mean, it's all one entity to me, you know. There's just there are facets of all kinds of things going on, you know, stylistically, but it's cohesive at the same time. But hard to,
No, that's okay. That's okay. I get it.
I like.
It's all good. I mean,
like-
it's
I
just a
like,
standard question I like to ask. When we have like, I put my heart and soul into this. Oh, where's your real heart and soul? Which song? I have a tendency to just go off like that.
I think with a question like that, I take it as like when I answer a question like that, whether it's on something I did or I try to forget craft, and this could be for our thing, or a David Bowie album, or anything. I throw craft out the window. When I'm thinking about the answer, I just think about like just at its most purest, like what do you love the best? Like what do you love the best? Like the way you love, oh, it's magic, that's a song that like I love. I want to marry that song. I want to spoon with that song. So and like the Knack. I was such a shy guy. I couldn't tell you I loved you. Well, maybe it's like I love that song. So when I think about our album, and as far as like what do I love, the way I tell my wife that I love her, and it's like it's truly like, no, I love you. I love the two songs that I love the most are Something Happens. I really, really love that song. And I love 2 Million Pieces.
Fair enough.
Yeah, it's kind of like, to elaborate on what he's saying, it's like, what song, when you get the CD and you pop it in the player, do you just want to go right to and crank up? I just want to hear it. I just want to hear this song. Wow.
Like, it's all I can do to keep waiting for you. Like I love it.
Well, I want to thank you both. This has been a great interview. Keep doing your music, either solo or together as Wanderlust. I'll spread the word. I'll spread the gospel.
Yeah,
appreciate it.
All right. Thank you so much, Rob.
Thank you, man.
Scott Sachs, Wanderlust. Get the album coming to you very, very soon. Okay, take care. Bye, everybody.
All right, I got the cops behind me. I gotta go.
You can outrun them, man. Just outrun them. Don't worry about that.